sorry we missed you. Don't worry, we'll be back in a month. Event marketing manager, you tend to do a lot more sponsored events. A lot when you see startups, they'll start with an event marketing team because they want to get more of their brand out there. They want to get more exposure with job sites, something that's a little bit more tactical and unique to your territory. And that actually is the biggest differentiator between an event producer and event marketer. So the salesperson already had an open opportunity and they were talking to this big account. Dinner hosted and invited them and successful, and if you should do it again, their inbox right away. And it's usually the thank you email. This awesome ebook that I mentioned during the happy hour.
Today, Kayla is here to share her insights on making every event count. Kayla Drake is a seasoned field marketing leader with over a decade of experience in B2B SaaS and tech, shaping field marketing strategies at companies like Apollo and Udemy. We'll be exploring how these in-person experiences can transform your marketing strategy and why they are so important. We'll also talk about some real-life examples and tips that you can apply right away. Hi, I'm Anusha Khannan, a marketer with a background in data science, engineering, marketing, storytelling, and this is the Marketing Woman podcast. If you're into marketing, analytics, business, personal branding, or AI, we cover all of it here. So whether you're new to field marketing or looking to up your game, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. Hi, Kayla. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. How are you?
I'm so good, Anusha. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Before we get in, I would love for you to introduce yourself and talk about your background and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Kayla Drake. I have been in the field marketing and event marketing industry for the past 10 plus years. It's a true passion of mine. And I've worked at some notable companies, including Apollo, Udemy, Autodesk, etc. Yes, I love it. I'm a big advocate for the events community. So you'll see me in a lot of the community chat boards and Slack communities. And of course, if I'm not doing field marketing itself, I am also mentoring as a events career coach. And I'm based here in sunny San Francisco, even though it's never sunny. Woohoo! And that's me.
Awesome. I have been wanting to talk about field marketing for a long time, and I would love for you to kind of set the stage and talk about what field marketing actually is and why does it even matter in the marketing space?
Ooh, great question. So field marketing, the name is kind of in the title, but it is essentially a marketing activation where you are in the literal field, where you put your sales team in positions where they can sell to their prospects or meet with their customers through field activations, primarily events, but it's not limited to events. But generally speaking, you're an event marketing manager, but when you're in the field, that means you get to be a little bit more tactical. You have more of an ABM strategy behind everything you do, and it is more strategized to the territory that you partner with.
That's awesome. What's the difference between event marketing and field marketing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think people get confused with that as well. They don't know that there's a difference, or they feel like it's the same thing. It's the same in that they are both managing and executing events. That's easy, right? They both do events. The difference is almost like, think of it on a spectrum. When you're an event marketing manager, you tend to do a lot more sponsored events, a lot more conferences, a lot more trade shows. Your primary goal is going to be larger lead attribution. So it's a lot of lead gathering and a good mix of brand awareness and thought leadership. So you're really getting the company out there on a bigger name. A lot of times when you see startups, they'll start with an event marketing team because they want to get more of their brand out there. They want to get more exposure through those in-person activations. And then field marketing is when you get a lot more tactical around, like I said, more ABM strategy, more closely tied to typically an enterprise sales team where your strategy is a little bit more localized or regionalized to the various areas that you're selling into. So a lot of times you can kind of see that progression where an event marketing team starts with event marketing and they move into field marketing as the sales team grows. Because that's also how you're going to match those two teams. How you're going to organize them is like an event manager could be an event manager for all of North America. Whereas a field marketing team is going to be like a West Coast field marketing manager, East Coast field marketing manager, because they're tied to the different regions, the geolocations of the sales team. So that's just getting a little bit more tactical. And with field marketing, why I love it so much is it's not just events. You're doing other activations that are in the field to get your sales team in front of those key prospects. So it might not just be going to a conference or doing a hosted dinner, but it might be more curated dinner experiences, more ABM gifting. It might be, billboards in Las Vegas outside of a major conference center, or you're sending branded food trucks to a job site, like we did once at, Autodesk, which was really fun. Something that's a little bit more tactical and unique to your territory.
So you're basically saying that field marketer is the liaison between marketing and sales?
Absolutely. Sales is your number one stakeholder when you're in events.
Okay.
Really, especially with field marketing. You really want to make sure that everything you're doing is helping them to generate pipeline, close business revenue. Like you are really helping them close the deals that they're trying to get closest to, because
Right.
you're putting them face to face with those ideal customers and prospects. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we're talking about how it's helping with brand awareness, but also helping sales get leads and then talk to those people. My question is, how do you kind of determine if it's actually bringing in revenue? How can you tie one event to revenue?
Oh,
Because that's like the gap, right? You can't really explain it to people and say like, hey, we did this event, we spent so many dollars on this, but what's the ROI? How do you kind of calculate that?
I love that. And that actually is the biggest differentiator between an event producer and event marketer, right? So you need to be thinking about the ROI in these events. And the way you do that is going to be with really robust tracking. So all of your events should be living in Salesforce, whatever CRM you're using, but typically it's Salesforce when you're in B2B SaaS tech. Meaning every single event is organized by campaign, and you are tracking every single lead, every single conversation, because tracking that attribution between both sourced and influenced pipeline, as it's called, is how you know if that event was successful. Source pipeline means that those leads came fresh, brand new from that event. You literally sourced them. Whereas influenced means maybe it was a deal that was already open. So the salesperson already had an open opportunity and they were talking to this big account, but you hosted that dinner and invited them, and your activation is what helped push it over the line. So you are attributing to that pipeline, but you are tracking it diligently in Salesforce. As a true field marketer, you are, after every single event, you're looking at post event, the 2-week mark, 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. You are always checking those reports to make sure are all leads being followed up with by sales, and what helped the conversation push over the line. The big reason why you want to do that, not only just to prove value, to say, hey, I got ROI from this event, but it also lets you know as a field marketer if your event was successful and if you should do it again. You should always be transparent to say, if it worked well, we'll do it again. We'll invest more. But if it didn't, we don't go. If that conference didn't give us any leads, why are you going? Right. And that's what makes you a more tactical field marketer, is having that knowledge. But I think in general, my kind of golden rule is I usually say for every event, I want to see 3 times the return on investment in closed one deal. You might have like 5, 10x in open pipeline, but I want that marker of success to be, that's about industry standard. So if you spend 10K on a happy hour, I want to see 30K in closed one, right? Not immediately, because it's a long-term turnaround depending on your average deal cycle. But, at the 3-month mark, if you're sitting there, that's how you know if the event was worth it. And that's why following it up very tactically is super, super crucial, and what makes you a field marketer, because you're so tied to it. It's like you're a salesperson, but without quota. You're like, I want to close this revenue, but I don't want my commission to come out of it.
Right. I mean, also to clarify, do you as a field marketer follow up with people, or is it like the sales team's job?
It is primarily sales, but there should always be at least one touch that comes from marketing. And I think that's what's going to make your event stand out a little bit differently. Here's what I mean. Say if you do a hosted event, you do a happy hour. Now, when the event's over, say it was on a Wednesday night, right? Thursday morning, that first touch, that marketing email should be hitting their inbox right away. And it's usually the thank you email, right? So it's the thank you to everyone who attended. So great to have you there. This is where you can include in like photos from the event that you took. You can include a quick post-event survey, which I always encourage you must include, because you want to get that feedback. Feedback is fuel. And then any other helpful call to action. We have an upcoming webinar, register here. Here's this awesome ebook that I mentioned during the happy hour. Here's the link to download, etc. First touch, we're talking within 24 hours. You must send it. Also to your no-shows though. Hey, sorry we missed you. Don't worry, we'll be back in a month. We'll make sure to invite you, whatever it may be. But then you want, within the week of that event, you must have sales following up with those individual leads on a personalized level. And that's where you can kind of create the cadence with the sales team. So say, for example, based on how you score your leads, maybe you'll have all the attended leads go straight to the account executives and they'll follow up. Hey, John, so great to see you there. Would love to schedule that call for follow-up. Let's keep talking about what we were talking about during the happy hour. But maybe the no-shows can go to your SDR team because they didn't make it, but still low-hanging fruit. Hey, Jim, saw you registered, but you weren't able to make it. Would love to tell you what we've got going on at XYZ company. Let's book time to chat and I'll get you caught up. Boom, done. But you're creating that as a field marketer. You kind of create that game plan with them so they know what their expectations are. And then you ensure that they're following up. Definitely.
Gotcha. Could you give like an example of where you've seen this be successful from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have this implemented in every single event at every single company I've ever worked at, is always that post follow-up game plan with sales, which is pretty crucial. But one of the things that I love to do, I was just thinking when I was at Building Connected, we would do this hosted event series where we do these happy hours and we do these dinners. And even with our conferences, we would take a whole mess of pictures at the event and we create a cute little collage and we would always include it in our follow-up email, the marketing email. Or if we had a professional photographer on site, we would actually get a whole bunch of photos, throw it into a Google Drive, and the follow-up email would be, so great to see you. Here's that photo of you in the subject line. Guaranteed open rate, by the way. And so when they opened it, it was like, so great to see you. Awesome. Let us know if you want to schedule time to chat. By the way, here's a link to the Google folder. Boom. They have access to it. Anusha, I'm not kidding. They would, like that day, they would post it on LinkedIn. Yeah. I got to go to the Building Connected event. I got to go to the Apollo event. Here's photos from it. It was so much fun. Here's what I loved about it. So not only do you get that first touch in their inbox, but you also get that secondhand promotion because they promoted it for you on social media. Then when you pass those leads on to sales, so if you're doing that first touch on that Thursday, I mean, most SDRs that I work with, they're so stinking eager to follow up. They love event leads because it's like gold for them. They'll be that Thursday afternoon. They're calling those leads being like, hey, John, saw you had a blast at that happy hour. Let's keep the convo going. And it creates the momentum. And that's what you're using that event vehicle for, is to help your deals accelerate by that in-person activation, that in-person conversation. And it just makes it so much easier for sales too. They also have a frame of reference. They remember like, oh yeah, that was so much fun. Those lamb chops were delicious. Those, the fried calamari. Oh, those are so great. Also, I want to hear about how your kiddo's t-ball game is this Sunday that you mentioned, just makes it more personal and interactive. Right. And then the follow-up is it's just so seamless for sales. It makes it so much easier.
That's awesome. I do have like a side question. We talked about how people the SDRs reach out to these people, but how do you qualify them? Is that a field marketer's job or is that the salesperson's job?
Ooh, yes.
I haven't received a lot of emails after events. I'm just like trying to understand why I didn't.
Oh, that's such a good question. Now, this is when you get into the nuances of what it means to be in B2B SaaS, being on the technical side of marketing. So there is what's called an MQL and an SQL and SQO. You're familiar with those terms, right?
Yeah, but we can still talk about it.
Okay. The reason why I bring that up, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads. So technically speaking, the only leads I should pass over to sales should in fact be marketing qualified leads, meaning I have taken the time to qualify them. And I think this is sometimes the miss with field marketers, where we will go to a trade show and every lead that we scan, we just say, here you go, sales. And then we give it to them to go through and filter out all the garbage. The reason why I say that is because you do actually, we'll use sponsored events as a good example. You want to take the time to actually filter those leads, score them. And here's what I mean by that is when I'm scanning your badge, when I'm sitting at my booth and I scan your badge, I'm going to mark you as either a hot, warm, or cold lead. I'm going to score you immediately. So that process is already done. Hot lead, you're interested, you want to book a demo, you're a potential buyer. Warm lead, you could be interested. You need a little bit more information. We didn't have enough time to talk. There needs to be a little bit more vetting, or perhaps it's an ideal company, but not the right title. So it's not a decision maker. So it's like that company you want to sell to, but it was a junior level person. You need to talk to them to get an introduction to the decision maker, right? And then cold lead is going to be like vendors, people who just were there for free to get free swag, people that you don't want to send over to sales. Start with that process first. Then when the show's over and you can upload it into Salesforce and you do a little bit more vetting, that's when you can actually do a little bit more making sure to get rid of the dupes, checking if it's an account that's already closed, lost, and is just dead and there's no point in following up. Or perhaps, you just can do a little bit more due diligence. And so that way the leads that you hand over, you've taken the time to qualify them. And now it's there. Now from there, that's when, especially when you have an SDR or BDR team, that's when they'll go through, say like the warm leads, and they'll qualify out. Is this worth my AE's time to talk and demo? Is this person ready to buy now, or do I need to nurture this a little bit more? And they're kind of that first line of defense for you to make sure that they're filtering out and making sure the leads are worth following up. And then the AEs, they just get to show up and sell and do what they do best, right? That's what you want to do. You want to like golden platter. Here's those golden leads. Boom, go for it, right?
I have a nitty-gritty question here.
Yeah.
Talk about how they will have to perhaps sometimes nurture them. So for nurturing, does it come back to marketing or will sales take care of it?
Depends on where it is in the sales cycle. So if a lead that's maybe a warm lead that's gone to an SDR team needs to be nurtured a little bit more, it just means build that relationship more. Right. So it could be the SDR gets on the phone with that prospect and they're like, I'm interested, but we just signed a contract with your competitor. It doesn't end for another 2 months. Okay. I'm going to check in with you in a month and a half's time. And I'm going to walk you through a demo and I'm going to win you over then. Okay, cool. You've marked your calendar. You're going to come back to them. In the meantime, that SDR might be like sending them content about your product. They might send here's a white paper. By the way, we have this webinar. So if you just keep it fresh in your mind, you just kind of keep nurturing that relationship without smothering them and keep it going. Now that's if the opportunity is open. Now in the instance of where it stays with marketing, this is when, say, that example of like those leads you scanned at a booth, if you had a bunch of cold leads, assuming they weren't like vendors or people that you couldn't sell to, I will throw those into a marketing nurture. So they'll get like an email campaign that they're added to, which is very subtle branding. Maybe they'll get a few targeted ads. So we're just kind of planting the seed. We're just kind of slowly nurturing that relationship until they have moved into, okay, this is a proper MQL. Now it's time to hand it to sales. So that kind of answers your question. Depends on where they're at in the sales cycle, but it could be both depending on how far they are at. I always kind of think of it like a trajectory, MQL to SQL, like that's where you're wanting to get it to.
Right. So if you see someone that's not actually going to become a customer anytime, let's say the next 5 years, would you continue working on brand awareness for them or do you not?
I mean, 5 years is pretty far out. Yeah, you always do. You always do because you're building trust and you never know what's going to change. Yeah. You never know if they signed a 5-year contract, but a year in, they're like, we signed a 5-year contract with your competitor. A year in, they're like, never mind. It's garbage. We want to get out of there. We want to figure out a way out. Well, and this happened a lot when I was at Apollo. A lot of the people that came over, like the prospects who came over, were with Zoom Info. And they were miserable. They hated it, but they were locked into these like long contracts. So once they hit that breaking point, which they often did, they would say, okay, forget it. I want to be done with Zoom Info. How do we get to Apollo? And what we would do is just build this trust. The brand awareness is really just building trust in the industry with your brand, letting them know that you're legit, you have a solid team, and you are hoping for a partnership with that prospect. You want a long-term customer, right? Not just a one-off. You want them to renew year over year over year. So heck yeah, you want that branding. You want to continue to nurture them because you never know when one day they hire a new, VP of revenue and they're like, forget this other company. Let's go with these guys here, Yeah.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah, absolutely. Because I always think about that. Never totally underestimate someone just because they're in a specific company or role, because you never know where they might go and where they might recommend you. So that makes sense. What kind of role would you say AI plays in field marketing?
AI is a hot topic these days. I tell you what, AI is interesting when it comes to field marketing because field marketing is such a physical job. I don't think people realize that. It's a lot of being on airplanes, flying out to event sites, setting up booths, setting up dinners and happy hours. And you're physically doing a lot that AI can't really replace. But the areas that I've seen it help me and other field marketers is it's taken a lot of these nuanced parts of our jobs that we often don't have time to do. For example, I use AI to craft email follow-up or craft the promotional emails for my events, or maybe even just like the landing page copy, or all of these like little tedious things that I'm like, I just need it just quickly written. You always have to proofread it. You got to make sure it's in your own language and everything's accurate. But I find that I will jump into Chat GPT to help me with those little tedious tasks quickly. Or in some cases, what I'll do is like, I might have an event and I'm trying to figure out an agenda, but I can't quite get a workflow right or like the timing right. I might jump into AI and say, can you give me a draft of an ideal agenda? Here's the parameters of the event. Here's the time. Here's the location. What do you think I should do here? And like use AI in that sense. And I have found that has really helped with the day-to-day work more than anything. But AI is in the forefront. So I'm excited to see what new AI technology is going to come out for field marketers, because I feel like that's a very untouched market. Mm-hmm. And we do a lot of piecemealing. Mm-hmm. I use like 5 different technologies at any given time to execute my job. I would love to start seeing AI bring those things together, or tech stacks that are consolidated for field marketing, because that doesn't exist very much. I want to see it, Did
you just throw in $1 billion idea?
I wish. I'm more like tapping on my industry friends, like, get to it, hurry up.
So for now, I feel like field marketers are safe. AI is not replacing you guys anytime soon.
No, not a chance. Not a chance. And I am confident about that too, is that you think of the pandemic. That's a perfect example. Mm-hmm. We did a quick pivot to virtual events.
Yep.
Which we did it because we had to, and you survived it, mm-hmm. but nothing replaces in-person activation. Nothing replaces community. Nothing replaces the art of meeting someone face to face, feeling their energy, shaking their hand, getting to know them on a personal level to help push that deal to close. Event experiences, we're talking a multi-million-dollar industry. It is not going anywhere. Survive the pandemic. So AI, I want to see AI support field marketing. I think it's just going to help level us up, because field marketing is not going anywhere.
That's a good one to know. I feel like if people want to be in a job where it's not going to replace them, you have it right here. Field marketing it is.
I don't know that AI can replace any job. People are too indecisive. There's a personality component that has to be added in. And I think you can templatize an event, but personalizing it and making it a unique, memorable experience, that comes from the creativity of that field marketer and that individual person. That just can't be replaced by AI. But I want to see AI enhance. Like I said, I want to see AI make our job easier, because we have 1,000 tasks. We do so much for any one given event.
I feel like AI is great for productivity, but not in terms of creativity. I always feel that way. Do you agree with me there?
Oh, absolutely. I always think about it too when people do AI generated images. You can always tell it's an AI generated image, because it's got like this weird, like rounded edge, this like weird kind of like blurry effect to it. You cannot replace a designer. You cannot replace a good creative who can put together this vision that you have living in your head. It's like you're going to replace an artist. Can't happen. Nah, can't.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about, in terms of like startups, and if they want to do field marketing. I know that the field marketing that I see is mostly from big companies with big budgets, but what about companies that don't have any money? How would they get started? Do they even have to do this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Typically speaking, when it comes to a traditional marketing team and how you structure it, the truth is you really want to start with the fundamentals, meaning having a product marketer, then a content marketer, demand gen, and then field marketing. Field marketing is usually the last component that you want to hire onto your marketing team. And the reason is that you really want all of those other tools built out first, those other teams, those other experts built out first, because we're going to be leveraging all of them to then execute our event. And my advice to startups is, unless you are in the events industry, I don't recommend starting with a field or event marketer. I recommend building out your marketing team first and then bringing in events. Now, that to be said, if you're ready to start investing in event marketing and you want to have them be a part of your team, start with a single event marketing lead. I would say start with events before field, because you want to match your event efforts to the sales team. And usually if your startup is small enough, you probably only have a handful of salespeople anyways. Field marketers are usually when your sales team is like 20 people plus. right? You have multiple territories to cover and you need to do more of a land and expand approach. So start with an event manager, event marketing manager. And there's a way that you can do it tactically. You can invest in virtual events, which is very low cost. All you need is a Zoom link, right? You just need a landing page, a Zoom link, boom. A little bit of budget for some, go ahead.
We need Goldcast.
Exactly, yeah. You just need a little bit of budget for something like Goldcast, something like Splash, some kind of, landing page, some kind of way of hosting the event, very low cost. And you can also start off with doing some very small conferences or a few handful of hosted events to just get yourself in the industry. And what I always recommend too, when you're really in low budget, start with partnered events, meaning hire an event marketing manager, because you do need to have a person who's an expert who can, focus solely as their job on that, because it's a very demanding job. But then lean into who are your partners in the industry? Can you sponsor their event? Let them fully run it. But then you just come in, have your branding added, you get the lead list added to you. You just have a couple people show up, very low lift. And then you're working with other experts in the industry as well. That's a big play that we did at Apollo also, is that while we had our huge hosted events, our well-known, the Pantheon event, our Cocktails and Community series, we did have a big part of our portfolio was partnered events where we would work with other partners and we'd host events with them. When you split the cost, that cuts it down drastically and you still get your name out there.
Oh yeah, totally. I feel like the last thing I saw on Inbound was Exclaimer and Sixth Sense partnering up. I was like, two brands, but I didn't know that they were splitting costs, and now I do.
Yeah.
I didn't know before.
They do, and I'll tell you one thing, Sixth Sense, they know how to run events. They do such an amazing job. I am always blown away by Club 6, which is their big, well-known event series. So the truth is, it's more like you get honored to be able to join them and be a part of their event experience and their entire brand and curated experience that they put on, and you get to add your logo to it and show up. That's a no-brainer, Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Where do you think field marketing is heading in the future? With all of this, like AI, we talked about in person still making a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Where do you see it going?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a juicy question. I actually just wrote an article about this too recently. I think what's interesting that I've seen in the last 5 years, a lot of this coming out of the pandemic, is this huge growth in community marketing and social selling. People are more drawn to community now more than ever. And I think a lot of it had to do with, during the pandemic, you were very isolated to your core family and friends. You could only see those core people. We kind of got a little rusty with the art of socializing and like the anonymous conversation, as I like to call it, going to the coffee shop and talking to the random barista who you don't know. It's like we got a little awkward, right? And then when the pandemic lifted, we really craved that. We wanted to be out in the world. But I think what we found as the pendulum kind of swings is this reality that we are craving real deep conversations. We're craving sit down dinners with just a handful of people where we can learn from our industry peers, like what you're doing right now, just having this podcast with me and saying, like, teach me everything you know. We're craving those real authentic conversations. And so I've seen, like I mentioned, this huge uptick in community marketing and social selling, people just sharing their experiences online and whatnot. And so when it comes to field marketing and event marketing, I've noticed that while we still need to be at these trade shows and these conferences, the hosted events, the ones that have the best traction and the best closed pipeline, are the ones that are a lot more smaller, intimate, those intimate dinners, or they're happy hours that are really focused on meeting with your peers. It's not so much like, go to this event, get this free swag. No, it's like, hey, talk to other leaders in the industry in your area. And I've seen Slack communities blow up in the last 5 years, like huge. Like I'm a part of like 5 different event communities right now because people are so interested in having those authentic conversations. And I think if you can marry that to your selling process, and you can marry that to your mindset around, I don't want to just be a person selling you something, but I want to be your partner in this and bring you on in a very excitable way that keeps you as a long-term customer. It comes with having those really authentic event experiences that fosters those like deep conversations. And that's what's been more successful. I think that's going to like tenfold jump in the next couple of years. Cause I've just seen so many people, even my friends who are entrepreneurs and do more contracted events. They're like, I'm hired to just do an insane amount of dinners. And these like really intimate event experiences, they're so much more requested than it used to be, those big fat conferences and the big fat, happy hours. So that's my 2 cents.
No, I definitely feel it. I think I'm biased because I'm realizing how much I know about B2B and how much I love it with just this conversation. Because I feel like on LinkedIn, especially, I see there's this feeling of, oh, this is the inner circle and we have to be a part of it. I feel that sometimes with a lot of marketers that I see on LinkedIn and feel, is that what you're talking about in terms of community too? Which is like, I want to talk to these 10 people who talk about these things all the time. And I want to see what kind of experiences they have. And I always feel like that's an inner circle that I'm not a part of.
And what it comes down to is just asking. It's just, you did that with me. You just messaged me and you were like, I would love to learn from you. Can we get on a call and chat? And of course, you know me, I love community. So I'm like, immediately, can you talk in 5 minutes? But there is a real want for that, real interest in that. So I think that speaks volumes to where events are going to go.
Well, yeah, definitely. And that's what makes me think in terms of like how companies should definitely invest in their employees who are the people that are actually creating this feeling on LinkedIn.
This is so true. I think that's one of the beautiful things about the shift in tech. I'm noticing that there's more people who are getting well known in the industry based on who they are versus the company. So there's this excitement around bringing these professionals in to grow the culture of that company. And I find that companies that invest in their internal teams and the growth of their internal teams and the growth of the internal happiness, the happiness of the employees, they seem to thrive 10 times more than, we have all these, high employee, like high output employees, they produce a lot. That's fine. You can burn them out too that way easily. But the companies that invest in like company culture and just company overall wellness and happiness, the company thrives.
So well. For me, Chili Pepper comes to mind for some reason.
Yeah, that was my experience at Udemy. I just felt like there, big investment there. I always go back to my time at Autodesk and Building Connected. Like culture there was unreal, and the people there I'm still friends with today. I still keep in touch with and want to know how they're doing. And it was just because so much was invested in the day-to-day happiness of the employee. Because you're not just working a job, you care about it. Your job feels like your purpose in some ways. So I think if you feel an emotional investment in it, you're going to do your best work.
100%. Totally agree there.
Yeah.
What is the one thing that you wish people that are not in field marketing, they understood and maybe they can even steal it for their jobs? For example, I will ask you this question in terms of inbound, where we saw like a lot of influencers going there and saying, hey, I got tickets to inbound. This is what's happening there. And they sort of created this FOMO around not attending. I know that because I felt it so much and I was tweeting about it. And HubSpot, if you're watching this, please invite me this time. But in terms of like non-field marketers, what can they steal from that if they're doing it, let's say, virtually?
This is something that I think gets missed a lot. I think for a long time, field marketing and these event activations were often seen as their own mini marketing teams and very often siloed. The truth is, everything that marketing team has been working on should be brought to the stage in that event activation and used as a vehicle for all of their KPIs, for all of their goals or activations. So what I mean by that is, if product is doing a launch, time it around a major trade show that company is going to be going to. So you can do a big promotional launch there. If content has a set series of ebooks, why are they not being printed or QR codes created and set on the booth or given away to all the attendees at your next dinner? There is such an appetite for everything that the marketing team is working on to be then delivered into this in-person experience. It's this perfect stage for everything the marketing team is working on that you can then put in real life in the literal field to not only expedite driving in more revenue, but also to help with that brand expansion and help those campaigns to continue to launch and marry it together. So I usually always tell my marketing team, field marketing events should be a vehicle for all marketing campaigns. And that also includes the post event. For example, one thing that we did big time at Apollo is that for every happy hour event that we hosted, we always had a videographer on site in a separate room and we would film customer testimonials. We would film influencer clips, and then we'd use that on our social media. We'd use that on our website. We'd use that on upcoming events. And these were little nuggets. These were like content gold that you can then reuse. And if we weren't posting them, we could give it to the person that we interviewed, and then they'd post it, and then we get even more social reach. So there's so much that you can just pull out of that event to use for other assets of marketing that I think sometimes gets missed or not taken advantage of. And to your point, HubSpot's Inbound, honestly, I think one of my favorite trade shows ever. I think it's phenomenal how they do it. A big reason why is that I say this to every conference vendor every single time. Do not separate the booths from the sessions. They should be together. They should be together because we're wanting to meet and learn from each other. So the way that Inbound does it is they, as you recall, the stages are right there on the show floor. They're just in the corners. So you have to walk through the booths to get to all the stages that present. So you feel like you're at a festival, first of all, like millennial genius, like, hello, this is all we do. We spend our money on going to festivals and concerts. So why not make our job more acclimated to that experience? But also it just means that, if I'm standing on a booth and I, as the, field marketer, I get to tune into a really awesome session. I don't miss it. And then when that session lets out, boom, we get hit on our booth. Like it's just this perfect little ecosystem. And to your point, that's what I noticed too, is like you said, a lot of influencers were on the show floor. They're filming their experience. They're doing a day in the life. They're taking pictures of everybody that they meet. And you feel like you want to be there. You feel like it's this weird tech celebrity event. It's a Met Gala. You want to be there. You want to be there. So I think they've done it right. And I hope more trade shows and conferences take advantage of that because it's very well executed.
I mean, I bet that if the booth is closer to where the events are happening, it's much more easier for you to strike up a conversation instead of being like, hey, come to my booth. Please, please, please stay here. It's much more easier to pick something from the topic and be like, hey, that person said that. What do you think about that? And it's much more easier to keep the conversation going.
Oh, yeah. And also it's just the flow of traffic. So this last year, Apollo had a booth like right next to the main stage, which was so cool because every time one of the main speakers would let out, like I said, we get the flood of people who would stop by. And it was just maybe some of it out of convenience, but a lot of it were people like, oh, I've been meaning to stop by and see you guys. Oh, perfect. Let's chat. And then boom, we go from maybe 0 during that 30-minute segment to 50 people are standing at our booth all at once. And it's worth the time in between. I've been to trade shows where they've done it so poorly where they would have all the sessions up in these meeting rooms in a whole separate area. And you'd have to like go downstairs into the basement to get to the booth. So it was just empty. And we're spending all this money, right? We're spending all this money. All they need to do is get traffic to us. And then we can create a booth that's more interactive and more fun. We had cornhole at our booth. We had like a photo station. So it made people want to stop by,
No, that makes total sense. Yeah. I know you love field marketing. So I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
What do you wish other marketers knew about field marketing?
It's a very demanding job. It's a very, very demanding job. We are managing so many tasks all at once. We're physically flying to every single show, flying to every event. It's sometimes very underappreciated and undervalued. I think more trust should be given to field marketers to know that their goal ultimately is to drive revenue for the sales team. So just acknowledge, give them credit, and be involved. Just be committed. If we say, hey, can you send out a couple emails to promote this event? Just do it. Because let me tell you, I just did 50 tasks for that one email I asked you to do. So just know that your field marketer probably loves their job, but they are so overworked. They are so tired and sometimes underappreciated. So, big shout out to my field marketers because it's a tough job. It's a tough job, but it's the most fun. It's the best part of marketing, in my opinion.
Awesome. Well, I guess the next question is, one thing marketers can do today, especially if they are looking to get into field marketing and they have no idea how to get into it, what's the one thing you would recommend that they do today?
You got to start somewhere naturally. I think it comes down to learning as much as you can. Talk to other event marketers, other field marketers, learn a little bit more about the industry, learn a little bit more about the role and the job. And then just be really involved in the community and keep a close eye on, potential entry-level positions that you can just get your foot in the door into, because you just need one foot in the door. That's it. You just need that one first job and you can grow from there. But I would actually suggest look into it internally. I have actually found some of the best event managers actually started somewhere else. They were like a BDR at the company and said, I really want to get into event marketing. Talk to the head of event marketing at that company and say, what can I do to get on your team? And make that move internally. Because a lot of times you just need someone to give you a chance. You just need the one chance and you're in, and that's it. And you're going to be hooked. I guarantee it. And you're never going to want to leave. And you're going to be like me and you're going to want to make a career out of it. But a lot of times it can start with just saying like, hey, can you give me a chance? And know that a lot of it can be taught. You just have to have enthusiasm and a willingness to learn naturally. Yeah.
And maybe people skills, because you literally have to be on the field.
Yeah, it's funny about that too. You don't have to be an extrovert to be an event marketer or a field marketer.
Oh.
A lot of people think you do. No, I actually know a lot of introverted event marketers. Okay. Most of being an event and a field marketer is project managing and just knowing how to talk to people. Mm-hmm. You know how to just have a basic conversation, how to collaborate multiple stakeholders at once. You don't have to be this big, I want to be on stage extrovert. You really don't. You can be an introvert. It's just, do you have the skill set to know how to communicate well and eloquently to multiple people at once? It's project managing. That's really what it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually good to know. I always thought it's like an extroverted job.
No, it attracts extroverts. I have a running joke that there's a certain personality that gets attracted to event marketing. It's like, you're extroverted, you probably have ADHD, you're a little bit of a perfectionist, you're, very A-type, but it's not always true across the board. Like I said, I know a lot of introverted event marketers that are just really good at project managing, and they're super, super creative. And this is their vehicle to be able to show that. Yeah.
That's very exciting. Mm-hmm. I feel like I asked you so many questions.
Yeah, good.
And the answers are so good. And I can feel like my love for B2B is just increasing day by day.
I love that.
Increasing. So where can the listeners find you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on LinkedIn, of course, Kayla Drake. You can always follow me. You can always message me there. I will say I am also a big advocate of the field marketing and event marketing communities. So join me in Goldcast's The Event Marketer Club. You can join me in Splash's community. You can join me, my absolute favorite club, Ichi, because I am in the conversation. I am in Slack. I will respond to all your messages. I do also do event career coaching on the side naturally. And yeah, you'll find me online. Otherwise, I'm in San Francisco, probably in the park running, as I'm, of course, a typical millennial that joined a running club. But otherwise, yeah, find me on LinkedIn.
Person that's running.
Yep. Pickleball or running. That's the two you get to choose from.
I haven't reached that stage yet, but I feel like I'm getting there.
Right. Or it's pickleball, running, or rock climbing. You could do one of the three. So that's
Pilates too. People do Pilates.
Pilates, yep. Pilates has been around though. You know what I mean? Like that was like the original cool thing.
True. That is true. Running is like the latest one, which I'm really.
The latest trend. It's so.
I can feel myself going that side anytime. Well, thank you so much. This is such a fun conversation, and I feel so energized. I feel like, oh my God, I learned so much. So thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad I could be a part of this. I love being able to have these conversations. So ask any questions you want, because that's how you learn. That is how you learn, is you be curious, inquisitive, always ask, because then you'll only grow as a professional. So thanks for having me.
Yeah.
If this episode made you think a little bit differently, make sure to share it with someone who you think would love this. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to the Marketing Women podcast, go fix that. More episodes coming soon, and I'll see you the next time. Follow the Marketing Women podcast on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me anywhere you want to. Check out my website, anushakannan.com/email list. And YouTube thinks you'll like this video. Check it out next. Peace.